For decades, the relationship between Singapore and Johor, Malaysia was simple. It was the relationship of a giant and its shadow. Singapore was the gleaming, ultra-modern financial hub of the world, the little red dot that defied the odds. Johor Bahru, or JB, was the place Singaporeans went on the weekend to buy cheap groceries, get a car wash, and eat a $2 bowl of laksa. But in 2026, the script is being rewritten. If you stand at the Woodlands checkpoint today, you aren't just looking at the world's busiest international land crossing. You are looking at the birthplace of what could become the Shenzhen of Southeast Asia. The Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone, JS-SEZ, is officially in motion. It's a massive project designed to blur the borders between these two neighbors, creating a seamless flow of people, goods, and money. On the surface, it looks like a win-win. But deep in the boardrooms of Singapore's skyscrapers, there is a quiet realization. The dynamics are shifting. For the first time in history, Johor isn't just Singapore's cheap backyard. It is becoming its biggest competitor. Why is Singapore suddenly nervous about its neighbor's growth? Let's dive into the 4 reasons why the JS-SEZ is changing everything. The Shenzhen Model. Can Johor do the impossible? To understand why this is a fear for the status quo, we have to look at China. 40 years ago, Hong Kong was the king of Asia, and Shenzhen was a tiny fishing village. Then, China created a special economic zone in Shenzhen. It allowed Hong Kong's capital and expertise to flow into a place with cheaper land and more labor. Today, Shenzhen's economy has actually surpassed Hong Kong's in some sectors, especially in tech and manufacturing. This is exactly what is happening in Johor right now. For years, Singapore has faced a space problem. It's a tiny island of only 734 square kilometers. There's no more room for massive factories, giant data centers, or sprawling warehouses. Meanwhile, Johor has the land, and it's right next door. Under the JS-SEZ agreement, the two governments have simplified the rules. We're talking about passport-free travel using QR codes at the border and a one-stop center for businesses to set up shop in Johor without the usual Malaysian bureaucracy. In 2024 and 2025 alone, Johor saw a massive surge in investment, particularly in data centers. Because Singapore restricted new data centers due to power and land constraints, tech giants like Microsoft, Nvidia, and ByteDance moved their brains to Johor. Johor is now the fastest-growing data center market in Southeast Asia. Singapore's fear isn't that Johor will fail, it's that Johor will succeed too well. If a company can have a Singapore prestige office but keep all its actual operations, staff, and hardware in Johor for 30% of the cost, why stay in Singapore at all? The cost of living, great migration. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the cost of living. In 2026, Singapore remains one of the most expensive cities on the planet. Rent for a modest 3-bedroom condo in the heart of the city can easily top $5,000 to $7,000 USD. Meanwhile, in Johor Bahru, you can rent a luxury penthouse with a sea view for less than $1,200 USD. For years, the commute was the deal breaker. No one wanted to spend 3 or 4 hours a day stuck in traffic on the causeway. But 2 things changed the game: remote work and the RTS link, or the Rapid Transit System link. The RTS link, which is nearing completion, is a high-speed shuttle that can move 10,000 passengers per hour across the water in just 6 minutes. It's a literal bridge to a cheaper life. Imagine a young Singaporean couple or a digital nomad from Europe. In Singapore, they struggle to save money. In Johor, they can live a high net worth lifestyle on a middle-class salary. We are seeing a great migration where thousands of Singaporeans and expats are choosing to live in JB and commute to Singapore only when necessary. This creates a hollowing out effect. If the talent leaves, the vibrant local economy of Singapore suffers. If people spend their weekends and their paychecks in Johor, Singapore loses that internal circulation of wealth. Singapore is no longer just competing with Hong Kong or London, it's competing with the city just 1 kilometer across the water. The infrastructure flip. KL and the ECRL connection. For a long time, Singapore was the undisputed logistics king. If you wanted to ship something to Southeast Asia, you went through the port of Singapore. But Malaysia is playing a long-term geopolitical game. While the JS-SEZ connects Johor to Singapore, the ECRL, East Coast Rail Link, and the upgrade of the North-South Expressway are connecting Johor to the rest of Asia more efficiently than ever. China has poured billions into Malaysian infrastructure. The goal? To create a land bridge that allows goods to move from the South China Sea to the Malacca Strait without necessarily needing to stop at Singapore's expensive docks. Furthermore, the infrastructure within Johor itself is catching up. Look at Forest City or Princess Cove. While they had a rocky start, these mega developments are now being integrated into the Special Economic Zone. They are becoming mini-cities with their own schools, hospitals, and tech parks. The data: Johor's port of Tanjung Pelepas, is already one of the busiest in the world. With the SEZ, the synergy between the port and the industrial zones in Johor is becoming seamless. The fear: Singapore has always survived on being the middleman. If Malaysia builds the infrastructure to bypass the middleman, or if Johor becomes a direct-to-consumer hub for the world's electronics and palm oil, Singapore's leverage as the region's only gateway begins to slip. The political shift, a new era of cooperation. Perhaps the biggest reason for Singapore's fear, or at least its alertness, is the political stability in Malaysia. In the past, Singapore could rely on the fact that Malaysia's politics were often chaotic. Projects would be started and then canceled. But the current administration in Malaysia, alongside the influential Sultan of Johor, who is now the King of Malaysia, has made the JS-SEZ a national priority. This is a perfect storm. You have a king who understands Johor's potential better than anyone, and a government that realizes Malaysia's future depends on high-tech growth, not just low-wage labor. They're offering tax breaks that are unheard of. They're creating green lanes for skilled workers. They're making it easy for foreigners to get MM2H, Malaysia My Second Home, visas, specifically if they invest in the zone. The fear: Singapore's secret weapon has always been its efficiency and transparency. But if Malaysia can replicate that efficiency in Johor, while offering land and labor at a fraction of the price, Singapore loses its monopoly on excellence. Conclusion: a new super region? So is this the end of Singapore? Of course not. Singapore is one of the most adaptable nations in history. They aren't just sitting back, they're actually investing in the JS-SEZ themselves. They know that a wealthy, stable Johor is better for them than a poor one. But the fear is real. It's the fear of a changing identity. Singapore is realizing that it can no longer be an island. To survive the next 50 years, it has to become part of a super region. It has to accept that the golden age of Singapore being the only star in the neighborhood is over. The rise of the Johor-Singapore Economic Zone is the start of a new chapter. It's a chapter where the border matters less and the shared economy matters more. For the traveler, the investor, and the resident, it's an era of incredible opportunity. But for the little red dot, it's the greatest challenge to its dominance since independence. The question isn't whether Johor will rise. The question is, when the two cities finally become one giant economic engine, who will be the one in the driver's seat? So, what do you think? Do you believe the Johor-Singapore Economic Zone can truly replicate the miracle of Shenzhen? Tell us what you think by leaving your comments below. If you like what you watched, hit the like button, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos.